Well, it will be quite inappropriate to leave our discussion of typical pawn breaks in the Czech Benoni without closely considering the move f5, which when played as black at the right moment can have a devastating impact on the position and cannot fail to have some impact irrespective of the position at hand. And I'm going to use the game Baluta versus Bricard from the Santa Freak Open 1998 to illustrate f5 played at the perfect moment. It's by no means a great game, but it's precisely the type of game that we can expect at sub 2400 level, let's say, when you challenge white in the opening with the Czech Benoni and you ask him to show his preparation, because my guess is 99% of players won't have anything prepared at all, and they'll be left to their own devices as early as move 5 or 6. They've got to come up with some layout, and very often they're not going to be able to come up with the correct layout, which is precisely what happens here. Now, when is f5 most effective? Okay, it's effective certainly when white's castled short too early. It's effective when white can't take on f5 and then go f4. That's quite often a possibility. As with b5, f5 can be considered effective when the white king is stuck in the middle. Sometimes white piddles around in the Czech Benoni and makes all sort of preparatory moves first, and he leaves his king stuck in the middle. Then a well-timed f5 can do some damage. Finally, it can be extremely effective when there's a white bishop on e3, because when black goes f5, at that stage he's ready for f4, and the bishop on e3 might not be sitting very prettily. So let's just take a look now at Baluta Bricard, where, you know, it seems to be starting quite well for white. He's playing the classical system. Nothing much seems to be going wrong. He's preparing his typical queenside counterplay. But now an interesting move by Bricard, king h8. I think we've seen the move g6 before. That made life too easy for white to a certain extent, because white can then go bishop h6 in one go. So I think king h8 is primarily a psychological move, you know, and I think almost certainly white should respond with a move like rook b1. I can just see this position playing on Baluta's mind. Now, just a minute, why has he gone king h8? If I move my knight on f3, he's going to go bishop g5. Don't know whether that's good for black or not, but certainly it preys on the other guy's mind that this possibility exists. If I go rook b1, which I think is the best move, by the way, well, that might be a waste of time. I might not want to play rook b1. And so eventually he comes up with this sort of halfway house move, bishop e3. But now, of course, Bricard plays g6. And white seems to have wasted time. The bishop on e3 is now a target for f5, and bishop h6 hasn't been played at all, which means black has an extra tempo when we consider his attacking scheme with moving the knight around to g8 and then going straight through with f5. And, well, black has already got an extremely good position here. All the criteria I discussed earlier apply in this given position. White's dark square bishop is misplaced. In fact, Baluta exchanges it off straight away, giving black a very comfortable game. Just going back, well, white can take on f5, but after g takes f5, black has all the chances. What white would very much like to do in this position is to be able to play f4. For that to succeed, he's got to have moved his knight on f3 out of the way, and also I don't like his position of his bishop on g5. I think the bishop should be inside the pawn chain when he goes f4, probably on e3. So with two white pieces misplaced, it's quite impossible to get the move f4 in, and that's all white's done in taking on f5, is giving black a mobile pawn centre, and the g-file, by the way, for later attack. So I think basically what's happened here is the simple little move king h8 has thrown Baluta completely, and Bricard's outmanoeuvred him in the move order, and now suddenly black has just got a tremendous game, and in fact kills white with a crushing kingside attack, very similar to the King's Indian, where this kingside pawn avalanche routinely occurs in the classical main line. Here we have a vastly improved scenario for black, over the King's Indian because he's already gotten rid of his bad dark squared bishop. Well, we've discussed good and bad pieces, and so Baluta tries to get rid of his bad bishop. He achieves that, but he can't stop the kingside pawn roller. And, well, any good King's Indian player will tell you an attack of this kind, an initiative of this magnitude, is virtually impossible to beat back, because White has no counterplay to speak of. He hasn't even opened a queenside file yet. He tries the miserable move f3. Bricard is right on the ball with knight takes h5. Finally, White gets to open a queenside file, but he's got no time for rook b1 because queen h4 would just kill him off. But this isn't much better. King f2 is obviously a very cowardly move. Knight g3 just steps in, cuts off the king running to the queen side. White tries to get rid of the knight, but now comes a crushing blow. Knight takes e4 check. Brilliant move. Queen comes in all the way to h2, and now it's very, very simple, forced all the way. F takes g3, double check, completing the demolition job. So that's a typical example of how devastating f5 can be in the right circumstances when White goes even minutely wrong in the opening.